Hi, I am here with Michael Jessen. Hi,
Hi,
this is so
Ilona, how are you?
exciting. I'm good, considering everything is crashing around the ears of everyone's, including
Yeah,
mine. I'm just really glad to see you.
good to see
Um,
you too.
we have to, we have to start with something that's totally kind of freakish, but so cool. So we did not coordinate this. If you guys can
Not at
see
all.
it, Michael is wearing San Francisco t-shirt,
San
totally
Francisco
spontaneously.
Warriors, by
And
the
then
way.
I noticed he was kind of looking at me, and I'm like, is there something? Did I spill coffee on myself? And then this is just a nice casual sweatshirt that I'm wearing, and it happened to say New York. Like, how odd.
Connecting the coasts.
Exactly. And I have to say that this has been such a serendipitous friendship
Yeah, it
that
has been.
started very spontaneously, and we connected.
Mhm.
I'm so grateful because Michael and I have a lot of synergy, the way we see the world and the way kind of we relate to ourselves. And it's been such a gift in this very difficult and challenging time.
We're
And
also very Scandinavian.
yes, we are, decidedly so. So speaking of difficult time, my goodness, as soon as we started to get to know each other, the world decided to collapse onto itself. This COVID thing has been so counterintuitive in so many ways. A lot of people are skeptical about it, and then they kind of had tragically to eat their words. In some
Yeah,
cases, some died, the skeptics.
yes.
This clearly is something that not only have changed our now, our present, is going to shape a lot of our future.
Yeah, without question.
And, it's scary, and it's extremely, makes you feel extremely vulnerable. It's extremely
Yeah.
unsettling. So we'll acknowledge that right off the bat. But it doesn't necessarily define us as humans. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, first of all, how are you? How is your family?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's been several weeks since you and James were here, of course.
Mhm.
And, uh, you know, when you made the visit to our house here in Connecticut, yeah, that was literally within a week or so of what became sort of these stay-at-home orders, lockdowns.
Mhm.
Don't travel, stay away from social distancing. So we were fortunate that we had that time, and at that time, although COVID-19 issues were starting to bubble up, it wasn't, of course, where we are now, which is stay at home. I mean, even now in the New York City area where we are, there the strong recommendation is, for the next couple weeks, if you don't have to, don't even go to the grocery store, don't even go to the
Right.
markets,
That's
just
right.
stay at home. This is like the critical, theoretically, a critical sort of crux of this pandemic
Mhm.
here. Um, so it's weird, it's strange, it's awful, obviously, but it really puts so many things in perspective. I hope
Mhm.
um, the human side of this is the real story, which is safety, health. The fact that as much as we think as a human race, and especially here in America, that wow, we're so powerful and great, and suddenly the whole world is beholden to this microscopic thing that um, is just jumped quite a several steps up the food chain, if you will.
Oh, yes. It
You
made
know,
itself a priority.
yeah, and I yesterday had it really hit close to home in a way. Obviously, being conscientious of the news, and I'm trying not to personally get too caught up in the um, anxiety and the drama that like the normal news just is.
Yeah.
I don't really turn on televised news. I get my news, online and all this stuff.
Smart,
And
actually. Yeah.
yeah, uh, but I got an email. I'm part of a men's competitive adult league soccer club here in Greenwich, and from the president of the club sent an email around about one of our guys died from coronavirus.
Oh my God. That's
In his
terrible.
50s, very energetic guy, athletic, had a family. But it was really one of those things that ever since then, my mood has shifted in terms of, I mean, obviously just the compassion and there's so many lives affected by this. Everybody's affected one way or another.
Yeah.
But man, I hope we can all remember that in these trying times, this is an epidemic that threatens lives, and of course our business issues, our kids not going to school, things not available on the shelf, toilet paper shortages or whatever. Who cares if you're healthy and safe? Nobody knows what's going to happen, where we come out of this, and it's not going to be what we knew,
Yeah.
But I can only hope that there's at least some enough critical mass of the population that sees this as a very human event where we're all in it together, and we do need to help each other. And there should be, the kind of love and compassion in something that is threatening to all of this. Not politics, not even economics. I mean, this is the worst is yet to come, and it's not just more problems with the virus itself, but there's economic calamity around the corner, and that's something that's not. I don't think it's. There hasn't been a great deal of thoughtful news on what the real economic fallout is going to be. But every week, I think, what is it? We're on Wednesday today, so tomorrow, I think it's Thursdays or Fridays when they release the jobless reports every week.
Something to brace for.
Well, 2 weeks ago, when the first sort of post, shutdown virus jobless claims were 3.3 million in the U.S.
Ouch.
And guess what the previous record was before 3.3 million in 1 week? It was in 1982, and it was 600,000.
My goodness.
So 650 maybe. It was roughly 5 times what was the previous record for jobless claims. And then guess what? What happened last week? It was double that. It was 6.6 million.
Lord.
This is real stuff, and it's something I think, it gets glossed over a little bit. And there's so many reasons why. We're in this, world of commerce, this world of consumer-driven economics, capitalist economics, and I think that it gets very underplayed how calamitous this potentially will be. There we are,
No, it's crazy. I so agree with you. I think as much as listening to the news and watching the news is detrimental to your mental health, I feel like it also is good to have eyes wide open and to really understand the magnitude of this and to be psychologically prepared. Because, if something better than that happens, we'll all take it. But right now we're staring something monumental in the face. We're talking Great Depression, 9/11, the Great Financial Crisis, all folded into one. And economically, it's just untenable.
And there's no way to really predict. We should all hope for the best, of course. But it's a very good time just to be reminded of our own humanity, I think, and that we have to, be there for one another. It's interesting, Ilona, which having, from being on the 90 Day Fiancé show or whatever, Julianne and I have a higher profile. It's, what's really become, especially somebody, I'm fairly a compassionate guy, I'm an empathetic guy. I get so many messages, through Instagram or Facebook, people want help of some kind, or hoping
Yeah.
they can get help. And
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, it pulls you, it rips your heart apart, because you wish you were in a better position, that
Yeah.
you could solve all these problems. But it's what can you do? Um,
You know, go ahead, sorry.
no, it's we're in the middle of this. In the next few weeks, as this progresses, we'll obviously know, is it getting worse? Is it getting better?
Yeah.
No, none of us know what the reality of life is that we're going to come out of this. And you can only hope that it's as muted and as, padded as possible. We'll see. But
Yeah.
it's scary.
It is. It's so much so. And the thing is, it's a great equalizer. It strikes everybody, doesn't discriminate at all. And at the end of the day, we have absolutely no control over who is next. It could be the person that you least expect, which is what already happened.
It does.
So, it's like the serenity prayer, give me strength to control what I can. So on the side that we can, quote unquote, control, not in a classic sense of the word, but what is it that we do have now? And you're right, we have each other and we have ourselves.
Yeah.
And it may sound a bit egotistical to say, but the truth is that it's a very important piece. It's foundational piece.
Yeah.
You are always a generous, philanthropic person, which is why now when people reach out to you, your heart really bleeds for them. It's because that's who you are.
There are some people I do, to the degree I can, I'll try to help. I personally can personally only do so much, but I've had already, family or close friends, but like all of us, where we are here, we're facing our own reality of, a devastation of life as we knew it.
Of course.
I'm not complaining one bit.
No, but it's a reality. It's a realistic appraisal of the situation. I mean, everybody's bank account has been affected, whether it's, retirement, whether it's investment. No one is immune.
You got it. Or just the idea of so many people lost jobs, or business owners such as myself. It's dead in the water at the moment. You hope, you don't know what's going to happen as things get hopefully better, but that's the reality of it. What can you do? It doesn't mean we can only wait this out. I think that's it, and hope that our government making good decisions on offering support, and the banking system is going to be completely overwhelmed and strained.
Yep.
And we'll see. This is, I think, a much more unusual time in our history, especially as a country of America, than any of the world wars, even the Great Depression, September 11, the 2008 financial crisis. One thing, a lot of people try to equate it to this stuff. This is totally different. We're not this is a consumer-driven capitalist economy.
Yeah.
And what that means is it's designed that the machine keeps pumping day in, day out, and there's so many reasons why. And I'm a student of finance and economics. That's my background.
Yes.
And so even if you're watching as sort of like the armchair quarterback, and as a student of it, it's fascinating, removing yourself from the problems that are happening. There's no precedent for this. There's no playbook. There's nothing that is surefire. Here's what happens when there's a global viral pandemic. We don't know. And that said, getting out, I guess, what is that? The left brain, which is analytics and math and all that, getting to right brain, which is, there you go. This is the right opportunity to let humanity come back in.
Exactly. No, and that's such an important piece. we're obviously, as you very correctly pointed out, woefully unprepared, because capitalism is not supposed to work like that. If you think about countries that run more like a planned economy, like socialism, they know what a three-ring circus, to put it succinctly, this is,
Yeah.
meaning what hardships are, shortages, things of that nature. And, they've never done it right to begin with. So we deluded ourselves with the fact that our system is foolproof, and then it's showing massive holes everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's a teachable moment. I hope this gets taken to heart and to mind with a lot of leadership and organizations that are relevant to this, actually everyone, as I think of it, and understand just how fragile it is. We're like a few steps away from abyss. And given your background, you have a much more sophisticated point of view, because this is something that you're very well versed in. And for someone like you to say, hey, this is really bad news, I think even drives the point home that much more, because you're very analytical just as a human being, but also you have the background to support processing this data points. So I guess the choices become, do we freak out and wring our hands, or do we actually try to figure out how to deal with it, the best that we can?
I wish, and there's no, I don't think there's any really clear-cut and good answer to those questions, because I think those of us, let's say those of us like ourselves who are at the mercy of what's happening, right? Yeah. Not just this threat of the virus and just day-to-day living and hoping that you don't get sick, hoping you can continue to have, food and necessities and what have you, basic things. We're coming back to, this is forcing us as a culture a little farther lower on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Mm-hmm. And that said, I'm having to do this for my own sake, and like so many other people. It's so disruptive. What you knew in your business, your line of work, your jobs, it's gone.
Yes.
It's different. There's going to be a different reset, or a different way that some kind of normalcy comes back, but there's no good answer for this. I think, one thing I was thinking about this the last couple of days, the mental health aspect of this, more culturally, the mental health aspect, I don't know, man. I think for so many people that aren't in positions of, let's say, decision-making and control over what the hell's going on, we are really beholden and at the mercy of some greater power here, and there's a very Buddhist concept, which is acceptance. It doesn't necessarily mean a bad way. It doesn't mean lay over, but it means for your own mental health, you can't drive yourself crazy about things that you don't have control over, which goes back to the Lord's Prayer, right? That's a very philosophical thing. It's not even religious, but it's the mental side of this. And I'm seeing it with, friends, family, and people have reached out to me, which there is desperation. And for sure, in America, the average American household is not in the position to withstand a financial hit of, let's say, $500, $1,000 that wasn't expected.
Yes.
And that's when things are fairly normal, when there are jobs and paychecks and such. Now suddenly, for such a massive amount of our population, you're talking about American households that are now going on, potentially a second, even third pay cycle of no paycheck. Either they're furloughed, they got laid off, or they've or reduced pay or something. The stories you're hearing. This is untenable, and it's also the access to credit, the access to this and that. We're already seeing signs of cracks here in our area, which home break-ins, car theft. There was a jewelry store robbed a couple weeks ago, and the owner of the store was shot in Stamford, Connecticut, and the store was robbed. You know, you're starting to see things where that's not coincidence. You know, this is what happens in desperate times. You know.
Yeah, I think once you strip down of whatever the shell, so to speak, it really shows you true colors. And unfortunately, some people's colors are not so great. And coupled with this emotional unrest and mayhem that happens in your mind, people are so much more likely to give themselves permission to go to the dark side, which is why I think we need to focus on the healthy conversations to both maintain our own sanity, but also as a society.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear statistics that are coming out, to your point, by the way, financially speaking, 30% of the household don't have savings, so it's a total disaster. But also, you know, the internet is full of facts and figures about, you know, alcohol consumption. I don't mean fine wine, but like inexpensive alcohol consumption shoots up.
The escapism of it.
The escapism, the drugs, the pornography. No judgment. I'm just saying, if it's trending that we're going to find any way we can escape from ourselves, we're going to come out on the other side not so evolved.
Of course. This is like you say, okay, no judgment or whatever, but this is like again, I think it's this idea of we're being taken down a few steps on Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
right.
Which of course, like the basic needs are just, you know, shelter and food or whatever, all the way up to, you know, the top of the pyramid is self-actualization and all this, you know, wonderful things that America is mostly, you know, towards the top, but suddenly now it's like survival mode.
Yes, and degradation to some extent. I mean, you look at what happened, you know, historically in ancient Rome. There's a reason it no longer owns most of Europe. It basically cannibalized itself. And it seems like such a far-fetched example, but there's a parallel there.
Well, here we are, and when you look at human history, you know, all the great empires eventually collapsed. Mm-hmm. Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Romans, the Egyptians, you know, for whatever reasons, you know, things happen.
But the elements are very similar, aren't they? They were basically kind of perverted emotionally and mentally. That's the core of the problem. They still the military. They just weren't evolving and growing and really embracing it in a positive way. They kind of got on their own instead.
So many things. So you could say hubris, or you could say greed, or you could say, or unpredictable, unmanageable natural events. You know, like who knows? You know, we as humans, you know, we need to feel a lot of control, and we've been. Most of the world we live in today, but not all of it, you know, the more westernized world, if you will, we've had this wonderful sense of comfort, you know, and this wonderful sense of control for the most part, and especially in America with, you know, there is opportunity, you know, education, entrepreneurial opportunity, capitalistic opportunity. This is a whole new ball game that there's nobody we can even talk to if our grandfathers or grandmothers are alive or whatever. This isn't even what happened in the Great Depression or World War II or anything like that. There's never been except for, you know, the 1918 Spanish flu. But okay, here we are in 2020, you know, is there, other than what we can read in the news and in the history books and what have you, any way of relating what's happening now to something like that? And then that was over 100 years ago, a different kind of time, different kind of technology, different kind of social, you know, network, different kind of societies. And I think this is a very hard thing for a lot of people to accept, which is, guess what? don't expect that there's answers, or that don't expect that there's a path,
Mm-hmm.
a roadmap out of this, because everybody's winging it. The governments are winging it. The Federal
Yes.
Reserve is winging it. The Treasury Department's winging it. Businesses are winging it. Corporations are winging it. The World Health Organization is winging it. It's all they're
either slinging blame or winging it. Absolutely. And it's so interesting to me. It's such a historical moment in so many ways. Obviously, we're all stripped of our whatever false sense of security we have, gone.
Yeah.
So it's down kind of to the brass knuckles. And as you correctly described, everyone around is making it up as they go. They're forced into that. So in an interesting way, it strikes me as an opportunity for humanity.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
It really is. And, let's just say that for whatever reason, if you believe it's divine intervention or however you want to think about it, the point is not the fact of how it happened. We can study that for medical purposes. Beyond that, it's useless.
It means nothing right now, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It means nothing right now.
The point is, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Those of us that survive it. And that to me is such an important piece of all of it. And we could amplify it or we could scale it down. I'll bring it to 90 Day Fiancé that you mentioned. It's a television show. If you watch what you want to watch, you're going to have an impression that has zero to do with what's being, even in an edited form, shown to you. If people watched you and made, some sort of, and thought they had an impression of you, most likely it's an impression they chose to have and not the real you. If they watched intelligently and really, it's really not hard to discern that you are a very thoughtful, well-spoken, refined human being that raised an amazing family. All you have to do is watch your kids on screen for a couple of minutes and it becomes abundantly obvious that you had an impact on those amazing human beings. So you can see that, or you could see someone, oh my God, they married a young woman. So what I'm getting at is that perception becomes reality.
Yeah.
And if you limit yourself, then guess what? That's all, those are the parameters that you'll grandfather yourself into. And what I'm saying is don't do that. And now you can scale it to something else. We share a passion for wine. Yeah. You could drink the same thing every day and that's fine. But you also are limiting yourself. You could think that wine is measured by price point and you will limit yourself.
Yeah.
It's a whole world out there. So the argument is, even in this dire circumstances, don't get in your own way and just think about bad stuff and woe is me and how unfortunate it is and why my generation. Take this as an opportunity.
I hope you're right.
It's so, in some ways it's exciting. I know it sounds, insensitive when I say that, but let me explain that the excitement that I feel comes from the fact that I've always valued human connection above all.
Yeah.
And now we've been kind of stripped down to being closer to ourselves and being more real ourselves. So we connect on that level and that context. Because there's no point for BS. So here we are in whatever form we can communicate. Obviously, most of it is virtual.
Yeah.
But the quality of that communication is so important. And having this conversation as if it's the last one you're having with this person.
It's so much more meaningful. It carries more weight, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's the exciting part to me. It's like, my God, if before we were kind of timid about it and maybe too distracted, now is the time.
Or some complacency, if you will, or something that just about our culture. It's easy to take things for granted, I guess. I think what you're saying also is a time like this, you hope it can allow people to, change an outlook a little bit, I guess. I don't know. In the morning, I look at my children a little differently, look at Juliana a little differently, look at even, Sarah, my ex-wife, Sarah, and Sean are staying here during this quarantine. And I mean, always having already been somebody that, naturally fairly compassionate and empathic, that's probably more my nature. You can only hope that, I don't know, man, it's a good time for the pettiness to go away. The little fights, the little disagreements, the, lack of patience or something like that. And just, this is something that's really testing the fragility of life, not just, fragility of our economy and jobs and all. We're beyond that. Forget it. The economy is what it is. You're not going to have any control over that. But what you do have control over is your interactions. And for, I feel for those that are quarantining or, staying at home or whatever and don't have anybody,
Yeah, for sure.
And I know people like this, and it's a time to give thanks, I guess. It's a time to be appreciative and reset and realize, like, put the petty stuff away. Love and compassion, and I mean, and it should extend to everybody, not just who you're stuck in quarantine with or something. I don't know. I think our culture, our humanity has, throughout the ages, has always struggled with that. That's, why what we're going through now is very, very different. This is really reducing some things down to a very human level.
Yes.
It'd be fascinating to see what happens. I got to tell you, I mean, maybe for the next conversation, especially when there's, next week with more development, I personally, I'm not so confident we're going to get to some really wonderful, beautiful place out of all this. I think there will be some people that have that capacity. Unfortunately, I think trying times like this don't end well.
It's true. And, honestly, humans have a tendency to want to rely on someone or something. The government is going to solve it for you. Your family member, if I could only get this person to do that, if I could only get this job. And here we are when no one can really help you. If that doesn't teach you self-reliance, I don't know what will. Yeah. Because you do have a choice as a human being. For as long as you breathe in and out, you can make a choice every day. Which direction am I going to take? Who am I? Yeah. This is a really good time to ask those existential questions. Because as we said earlier, we come in the world alone, we die alone. I mean, yes, there's people, hopefully surrounding you, loved ones. But at the end of the day, it's a solitary exercise life at its core.
Yeah.
So who are you at your core? Are you going to go to the light or to the dark side?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, character crisis brings out character, I guess. Yep. Somebody, a friend of mine in a group chat I'm in, put that out there, and it actually had to do with a friend of ours who's going through a cancer battle at the moment, which is times of crisis really bring out character. In this particular person, despite, I mean, suddenly he's battling cancer and he's having to do his weekly therapies, and then suddenly, my ex-wife Sarah, similar. She's not that. Thankfully, it's not that bad or advanced.
Yeah.
But it's a time like this, real crisis, that tests the true character of people going through it. Yes. There's going to be people that will shoot a jewelry store owner. Sorry. And there's going to be others you hope that, okay, maybe you lost your job, your business sucks. I'm in this position where business is, for fine wine, it's, obviously, how can you maintain what you thought you'd be able to maintain? How can you do this? I mean, for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have to start looking in a very realistic way of, like, I'm going to have to take advantage of the mortgage moratorium or whatever it is. I mean, be realistic with that. And how do you survive? How do you be a good person? And just realize you don't know where this is going to end up.